Back in the day, training was all about trial and error. Fast forward to today, and we've got decades of new research that has shaped how we train, recover, and build muscle. In this video, we're going to take a look at how the legends of bodybuilding used to do it and compare that to the science-backed methods we use today. This is not to say that one is better than the other, but to show just how far the fitness world has come.
Before we get into the juice of the video, I just want to kind of throw this out there as a bit of a disclaimer. I'm not trying to crap on Arnie or any of the old school bodybuilders. I'm simply presenting an interesting comparison of what training used to look like versus what training does look like now as modern research has developed and science-based training has become quite a prominent thing in the industry. With that being said, let's get right into it. So I'm going to go point by point. I'm going to discuss each one individually, give my opinions, and go from there. The first point, training split of Arnie that I have in front of me indicates he trains 6 days a week. Fantastic. First point there is I've never met anybody who can train when considering hypertrophy effectively 6 days a week and recover effectively. Just because you do train 6 days a week doesn't mean you might not experience better results through better recovery training less. Days 1, 3, and 5, in the morning he did chest and back. In the evening he did legs, calves, and abs, so twice a day. Days 2, 4, and 6, in the morning he did shoulders, triceps, and biceps. In the evening he did calves and abs. So he does abs and calves 6 days a week in a row. Let's go through that. Firstly, you do not need to train twice a day. There's this massive misconception in the industry that you must train more to experience better results. That's not true. Like I said previously, you probably won't be able to recover effectively from 6 days a week. You definitely won't be able to recover effectively from training twice a day, 6 days a week. Throughout that, you have to understand is when you train a muscle, you need to give that muscle time to recover efficiently and effectively so you can then train it effectively again soon after. Be that once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. I'd always say when looking at optimizing the building of a muscle, I would really want to focus on at least twice a week, sometimes even 3 times a week frequency, but 6 days a week is way too much. If you consider it this way, when do you rest? Sure, there's a rest day on the 7th day, but after all of the fatigue you've accumulated throughout the entire week during 12 training sessions, do you really think one day is going to be enough to suddenly make you feel great? The one thing I will give credit to Arnie here though is, from my understanding, during this period he was also working full-time as a labourer. He was building and doing some construction work, so we go from training in the morning to potentially a 10-hour working day back to training in the evening, where he'd probably train for about 3 hours each time. The one thing you cannot and will never be able to fault there, based on what this is telling us, is his work ethic and his dedication and commitment to the craft. And that's the one thing I feel is quite often lost in modern training, is that a lot of times it wasn't based on what the science was saying, because the science actually didn't really exist back then. It was just a bunch of people getting together, doing something they loved, training, working, having a great time, and living probably quite a cool life while doing so. And now, obviously, it's shifted. People take things a lot more seriously, and there's a lot more science and evidence to support what we're doing, which then allows us to make more informed decisions. If the science from now was around back then, I'm confident saying Arnie's training would have looked very different, and maybe he would have been an even better bodybuilder. Arnold's most famous body part, we'll say, was his chest. He was always known to have a massive chest. According to this page, let's see what his chest workout looked like. Bench press, 1 set of 30 to 45 reps. Another bench press there, 5 sets of 20 down to 6 reps. They're reverse pyramid seams. Incline bench press, 5 sets of 10 to 15. Flat bench dumbbell fly, 5 sets of 10 to 15. Weighted dip, 5 sets of 15. Dumbbell pullover, 5 sets of 15 to 20. Well, where to begin? Firstly, I've mentioned 1,000 times before, exercise redundancy. Doing 2 or more of the same movement that basically targets the muscles in the same way. If you're doing a bench press and a dumbbell fly, very similar things there. I don't think redundancy was a consideration of his during the period he was doing this, which is fair enough, I don't blame him. But one thing we can consider is if he's doing this workout 3 times a week and he's doing a grand total of 26 working sets for his chest 3 times a week, I dare you to try that for a period and see how well you recover, ensuring you're doing all of those sets to, if not close to failure. It's not going to happen. What's going to end up happening is you're probably going to end up hurting yourself, because injuries are often caused by over fatigue and under recovery. You're also going to end up regressing because you simply cannot recover from what you're doing. Therefore, progressive overload is in the bin, and we know that's a fundamental principle of growth. This also goes into a bit of an argument of genetics. I've mentioned many times before, but genetics are commonly and heavily overlooked in the industry. Just because somebody may look a certain way does not necessarily mean they knew what they're talking about, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you should do the same as what they did to achieve a similar result. Arnie is a prime example. He could have probably done the worst training split in the world and trained his chest incredibly ineffectively, but he'll still probably have a bigger chest than many of us, not because of his training principles and his routine and his programming, simply because of his genetic superiority when looking at chest development. Like I said at the start of the video, I'm not trying to disrespect or disregard anybody. I'm a big fan of Arnie. I grew up watching all of his movies, and he's actually somewhat what got me into bodybuilding or training in any capacity, because I was watching Pumpy Iron as a child. But it's just interesting to see how training methodologies and approaches have changed so drastically. For example, throughout that session, Arnie did 26 sets, working sets, for his chest alone. My training program, I do about 8 to 10 working sets for my chest per week. Yes, Arnie's chest was far more impressive than mine. I'm not trying to discredit that. But what I'm simply saying is training has changed a lot. Intensity is probably going to be far more important than volume, and making sure you train each muscle frequently enough is probably going to be pretty important too, but maybe not 6 days a week, twice a day. That being said, I will throw out that I bench press more than Arnie. I'm just going to say that. Arnie, I met you in 2015 at Gold's Gym LA, still bench press more than you, so clearly I must know everything. And that leads us on to another famous bodybuilder from a similar era, being Tom Platz, who was very well known for his leg development, as he has arguably some of the best legs in bodybuilding ever. And again, this is going to come back to the reference of how much of this was due to his programming and how much of this was due to genetic favoring. Let's go through his leg day, or one of his leg day programs. According to this program isn't well structured, we'll say, and it doesn't indicate what sets and what's reps. I'm going to base this on my interpretation, in which he did 8 to 12 sets of squats, 5 to 20 reps, 5 sets of hack squats, 10 to 15, 5 to 8 sets of leg extensions, 10 to 15, 6 to 10 sets of leg curls, 10 to 15, 3 to 4 sets of standing calf raises, 10 to 15, 3 to 4 sets of seated calf raises, 10 to 15, 3 to 4 sets of hack machine calf raises, 10 to 15. There's a common theme there that he likes the 10 to 15. I think it's safe to say that is a shed load of volume. Oh my lord, the volume, indescribable. For example, my quad volume in a week, I probably do about 8 working sets for my quads across a week, maybe 9, give or take. He does arguably more than that in one movement, being his 8 to 12 sets of squats. And again, this goes back to the big belief during that period, which was volume was king. And although a lot of influencers will still promote that, some well-known names even promote that, but it's simply not the case. What matters is how well you can recover, how frequently you're training the muscle, make sure you're doing sufficient volume that you can recover from, but the big one here, which is something Tom favored himself, how hard you're training. It actually brings us on to the next point, Tom's training intensity. So, a couple of things there. Firstly, you can't argue the intensity. One thing that's really useful at gauging how hard somebody's actually training is how fast the reps are moving. His earlier reps, as we saw, were actually moving pretty quickly, which may indicate that some of this was for the camera, we'll say. But Tom is known for his training intensity and how hard he pushes himself, which is fantastic. One of the biggest issues I see with individuals when it comes to training and building muscle is they simply don't have an accurate gauge of their proximity to failure. Especially when it comes to leg training, they do not train as hard as they think they're training. That being said, too much of a good thing can actually be quite bad. When you're pushing yourself that far, I'd actually say beyond failure, to the point where he's having individuals help him, where he's finding ways just to kind of fatigue his muscles so far to the point he physically cannot move his legs anymore. Although yes, training exceptionally hard, which I respect, at that point you're just accumulating a lot of fatigue for no real return. And it very much is actually the point of diminishing returns, where you are now hindering your ability to recover, hindering your ability to train your legs effectively again frequently, just to push yourself really hard during one session. Yes, at the time you may feel like you're really giving it the beans, but if this limits your long-term stimulus because it reduces how many opportunities you have to train your legs and grow, is it really effective, and is it really sensible or wise? Arguably not. I'm a big believer in training to, if not close to, failure. I'd say anywhere from 0 reps in reserve to 2 reps in reserve is a really comfortable green zone for a lot of people. But if you push yourself beyond failure all the time, day after day, without any kind of opportunity to take your foot off the gas a bit, you will burn out very quickly. You will accumulate a lot of fatigue, which is going to annoy people that I've said that in the comment section. There's going to be someone who's trained around a similar era jump in saying fatigue didn't exist back in my day. Yes, it did, and that's why so many of you are so injured and hurt now, because a lot of injuries are caused by over fatigue and under recovery. Remember that. So the take-home message really is this. Look at the individuals back in the day, what they did right, what they did wrong. Take everything with a pinch of salt. Refine it to align with what you're trying to achieve. Find out what you can recover from, what you can't recover from. Find out how you want to train, find out what methodology you like to follow. But regardless, I can give you all these optimal ways of training. They don't mean anything if you don't remain consistent with them, and if you don't enjoy them too. And ultimately, if you enjoy them, you're probably going to do them more consistently. It's a win-win. I'd always say, follow the basic principles of hypertrophy and then do what you love. Train hard, maybe not too hard. Train each muscle 2 to 3 times a week and make sure you can recover from what you're doing or progressively overload it as well. Do those things consistently, you're probably going to be okay. You just need to be patient. And if you want to see me train like Tom Platz and take on a full Tom Platz leg day, click the like button. If I get 1,000 likes, Taylor and I will do it. I'll film myself doing a full Tom Platz leg day, and I'll also document how long it took me to recover from that leg day. 1,000 likes and will do it. Again, like with all my videos, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not saying I'm wrong, I'm not saying my way is the best way or the only way. I'm simply just presenting an alternative opinion that could help you achieve even better results. And I'd appreciate your opinion in the comment section below. So let me know your thoughts when it comes to Tom Platz's leg day and how Arnie used to train leading up to the Olympia. tfnl coaching is linked down below in the comment section description too. If you want to be trained by me and coached by me on an online basis, click the link, fill in the application form, which takes about 2 minutes. I'll send you an email with a bit more information. We'll hop on a free Zoom consultation call, talk about life, talk about things, talk about training, and we can see if coaching is something that appeals to you and can help you achieve your goals, whatever they may be and wherever you may be in the world. But there's never any pressure. And also, don't forget, while you're still here, like, share, comment, subscribe, because if you don't do any of those things, I will cry about it and you'll have to suffer.